This is a new venture that Skip and I put together to try to address the fact that all of us all over the world are in suddenly a very new world where we are trying to protect ourselves and our loved ones from the virus. And most of us are being sequestered. And that, for most of us, ends up being a pretty traumatic change from what we're used to, being able to traffic in the world and hug people. And for most of us, that's going to bring up all kinds of strange and new problems that we have to deal with. I myself am an artist. I live in Montana, Helena, Montana, in the US. And for me, it's not such a big deal because I've been self-sequestered for about a dozen years as a retired artist. I used to bang around the world and see people all the time. And now I'm pretty much a monk in a monastery in my studio, which is actually in the middle of the capital city, but I still am quite isolated. So for me, it's not that much of a change in lifestyle, but it is very socially isolating. And for instance, I'm a very touchy-feely person. I grew up in a really warm family, and I'm used to getting hugs all the time, being able to touch people, being in touch with people. And so for me, one of the things I have to deal with is how do you survive without being able to contact the skin of another person? So all of our problems are likely to be different. We had our first global meeting like this a couple of days ago, and we had people all over the world from Hawaii to Singapore. The only place that was really not represented was where it was in the middle of the night in the Far East. But we heard some really fascinating stories from people who have different situations in different parts of the world. It's different in Chicago than it is in India. It's different in Hawaii, where it's, what, 5 o'clock a.m. there.
Yes.
Than it is in London, where it's, what, about 5?
Well, no, it's 4:03 p.m.
p.m. in London. So we're all gathering at different times of the day, but we're all in the same situation. We are stuck at home, basically, trying to make a life, trying to understand what it is that is alive within us. Oftentimes, like for me, I don't really have a career that I can lean on. Even though I'm doing artwork every day, my social career has disappeared. And so I really need a social group, and a group like this is really helpful for me, just to have people to reach out to say, hello, I'm still alive, how are you doing? And other people have other kinds of issues, like being stuck with a family that maybe you're not getting along with, and you have to find space for yourself inside your house. So here's a chance for us to just talk about the kinds of issues we're dealing with, the kinds of emotional things that come up, the questions we have. So all of the above. And today we have a very special guest who Skip invited to address us. Jean Raffa is a Jungian, has been studying Jungian thought for 40 years, and she's the author of several books, some of which you've probably heard of. One is Healing the Sacred Divide.
Nancy has a better copy. Ooh, I have my copy right here. Sorry.
Well, you can hold that up to the camera. Yeah. Okay. Healing the Sacred Divide. Dream Theaters of the Soul is another one. Bridge to Wholeness is another book, and she's just coming out with another book called The Soul's Twin.
Twins.
Twins, two of them.
Yes.
What do you know? Twins come in pairs. Who would have thought? So myself, I've got to take off in about 15 minutes to teach an art class I'm a guest lecturer at a college here. And I'm going to slip out quietly. So I'll just tell you now that I think it's really important for an elderly artist like myself to reach out to the younger generation and expound on why art is so important in a society where we really are concerned about things that are literal in our presence. We're concerned about social status and how we're doing professionally, and what our house and our car and our clothes look like. And the fact is that art is one of the first things to arise in the human spirit. And it's still one of the most important things we can do, not only to connect with each other, but to connect with our own soul. And I'm assuming that this is what Jean is going to be talking to us about. So not necessarily about art, but it's certainly about connecting with the soul. And this is one of the most important things we can do at this really strange time when all of our societal values that are, I think of as logos values, the values of the literal left brain, the masculine values, are suddenly called into question, and the feminine values of introspection and relationship and artistic and aesthetic experience suddenly come to the fore. So we're thrown into a kind of turmoil trying to settle all these things. So the purpose of this kind of a group is to allow us to tell our story, to share our concerns with each other, and to try to move forward into a world where hopefully we can unfold a more responsive attitude to a world that is not always so friendly. So with that, I think I'll turn it over to Jean, and I will just quietly disappear in about 15 minutes. The rest of you carry on. Skip will be here.
Yeah, just a moment. Thank you, Tim. Just a moment. I have one little thing that I want to do before Jean starts here. And I apologize for interrupting Jean. but today on CNN, there were two reports of young people who had been taken suddenly by the coronavirus. One was a 39-year-old man and one was a 30-year-old man. And in the story about the 39-year-old man, his wife dropped him off at the front of the hospital, and she was told to park the car, but when she came back to the hospital, they wouldn't let her in the door. And so it's so important for us to know what we have to do with our loved ones in order to say goodbye to them if we never see them again, which was the case for the wife of this man and his daughter this morning. They never got to say goodbye. And so it so happens that my wife works as a volunteer at Hospice of the Chesapeake. And so I want to share with you her wisdom about what you should say to someone who's dying, because we're having a lot of deaths around the world, and we're all going to be facing grief. So there are things that you want to say that you want to get out. And certainly if you're saying goodbye to someone at the door of a hospital, you should be doing this because you don't know if you're going to see them again. But also, these are things we should be saying to our loved ones all the time. And so I'm going to share this screen with you. and we'll go through it just briefly, and then we'll hear from Jeannie. Okay, things to say before a loved one dies. One is, I love you. I love you. Two is, thank you for all the things you have done for me in my life, and you can certainly elaborate on that. Three is, I forgive you for any of the hurts that the dying person might have imposed upon you during your life. And finally, can you forgive me for any of the hurts that you might have been originated? So the third one is, I forgive you for the hurts you put on me, like a father or mother might have hurt you in your growing up years or something like that. And can you forgive me for anything that you said or did to them? Okay, so those are very important ideas that you want to share with everybody. And certainly if you want this list, I think I'll attach it to the Zoom chat and you can download it. But if you want this list from me, you can reach me at skip.conover@gmail.com, and I will be happy to send it to you. So I'm gonna stop that now and turn over the floor to Jeannie for a few minutes. And
Hey, Skip, it
yes.
occurs to me that we should just go through the panelists here and have everybody introduce themselves and where they're from, just so we know who's here.
Right. Okay. So we'll just do that very quickly. So Marce, can you say who you are and where you're from?
Hello, I'm Marce and I'm from Spain.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And I'm Skip Conover. I'm the host. Tim is the host. Terry, say where you're from and who you are. You have to unmute yourself.
There, okay. Hi, I'm Terry Strickland. I'm from Frankfort, Kentucky.
Thank you, Terry. Miles, how about you?
Well, the scene out the window gives you a clue. I'm in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and it's a frosty 5 degrees Fahrenheit out there.
Okay, thank you very much. Nancy, how about you?
I'm Nancy Pfaff, and I'm in Reno, Nevada.
Thank you for joining us today. Cynthia. Okay, I'm going to unmute you. Go ahead.
I'm Cynthia, and I'm in Vermont.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Pablo.
Hi, I'm Pablo. I'm from Chile, but currently living in Lima, Peru.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Jerome.
I'm Jerome from the Asheville, North Carolina area with the beautiful mountains and streams and everything. So, hi, everyone.
Thank you. Deborah.
I'm Deborah Bowman-Stevens. I'm in Montgomery County, Maryland, which is the hardest hit county in Maryland. I think we got up around 400 cases today, and we are experiencing somewhere around 20 deaths, including some in my own community.
Yeah, thank you, Deborah. Marianne.
I'm Marianne Snelling. I'm an artist and I live in Hawaii. And I just joined you, and I'm sorry if I'm a little bit befuddled. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm not quite awake, but I'm so happy to see all of you. And I'm so appreciative of this effort to reach out, because what else can we do at this particular time with the global, I mean, maybe the first time in history that everybody on this planet is affected, and our humanity is tried. And there's lots and lots of things going on, and upgrades to our psyche and all kinds of things. But we're facing fear, and fear is dangerous. So a meeting like this is important. Reaching out with love, interest, well, with your fear, reaching out is important. So thank you very much for what you're doing, Skip.
Hey, you're welcome. Thank you. Joss, why don't you introduce yourself? Can't hear you.
Came and joined Skip. Marianne is an artist from Hawaii, and she's a very good friend of mine. And I'm Joss, and I live here in Hawaii, same as Marianne. And we are very honored and thankful, Skip, that you invited us to join this group.
Thank you for joining us. Gemma, can you unmute?
Hi, I'm Gemma. I'm in Nottingham in the UK, and I just saw this shared on Martha Crawford's Twitter. I'm a trainee psychotherapist and just looking for as many places to connect with people as I can.
Thank you so much. And Melanie.
Good morning. I'm Melanie. I'm from Elgin, Illinois, which is just outside Chicago.
Yeah.
Saw the numbers jumped a lot today in our nation. That was pretty startling.
Yes, it is startling. Okay, for those of you who are on YouTube, if you go to the top of the YouTube chat, you can click on the link that's at the very top and join us in the panel if you would, and tell us where you're from as well. I will come back to the chat on the YouTube channel at some point later on after Jean Raffa has talked to us, but Jean has kindly given us her time to give us some guidance, and so I really would appreciate it if we could wait for my responses until Jean has talked to us. So Jean, welcome, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Skip. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, can hear you fine.
It's a real pleasure to be here, and I appreciate your inviting me. Two things. I'm in Orlando, Florida, and it's a cool 70 degrees here right now, very comfortable for us, and a beautiful spring. And we have been sequestered for 3 weeks today. My husband and I have alone here. And I totally relate to Tim. As a writer, I tend to be a loner. I'm an introvert. I stay home and write all day, every day. My husband is gone all day, every day, but now he's working at home. So we are in that kind of a situation where I'm having to adjust to having my solitude and quiet interrupted a little bit from time to time. And he's having to adjust to working at home with people who from his office who are all around town, and getting used to doing this all with social media. And it's quite an experience for both of us, but I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But I do want to also say something to Tim about his idea about art and creativity. And I do totally agree with you, Tim, that discovering oneself is an art. The art of alchemy. It's the art of making a work of art out of your life. And that's what Jungian psychology has helped me to do as I became more familiar with it when I began to study it and began to have my own practices. I began to see how it's not just a theory, and it's not just a philosophy, and it's not just a set of facts that you can believe in and then you'll be fine. It's a process that you have to go through. And art has been a very helpful tool for me, thinking of creative, and I'm not an artist with painting, I'm a writer, And that for me has been my art and my practice. One of my practices has been to write my dreams down. That's my other practice, dream work. And those two practices have been the two things that have helped me come to know myself, and it's coming to know myself that has helped me learn how to cope in a more mature way and feel more whole. So art, dream work, looking within, self-reflection, these are my processes and my practices, and they're all based essentially on Jungian psychology, and I do have a very strong spiritual bent as well. So my other practice is love, trying to learn how to love. And I was 35 years old, 37, I guess, when I realized that I was not happy with myself at all. I'd been in prayer groups and study groups and all kinds of things. And I was so aware that who I was on the outside wasn't jiving with who I am on the inside. And that sense of disconnection was so disturbing to me. And I could see myself smiling and talking to people and inside feeling critical, you know? I could hear my own motivation inside, which was varied with the situation, but see that how on the outside, nobody else knew that because I was showing them what I wanted to. And that was my first hint that I had a persona. And that was very disturbing to me. I'm an INFJ, if you all know the personality type. I'm a feeling type and an introvert and an intuitive and a J. The judging part of me is very real. And I found it very hard to live with a divided self that I felt myself to be. And my pain became so great that around 37, midlife, typical time for many of us who were going to go within, that's when I just started committing myself to learning how to love. Stayed up most of one night, just praying to whatever is holy and sacred, whatever force there is in life that is greater than my puny ego, you know, teach me how to love. So that I'm still learning, and it's a daily practice, but trying to learn how to love and trying to be congruent and authentic and using art to do it have been with Jungian psychology as my foundation. That's who I am. So Skip, what would you like me to talk about other than that?
Well, Jean, thanks for that. I was hoping that one of the things that we're facing is that many of us are at home with our spouses, which we don't have to be all the time. And that can sometimes be stressful. There was a wag on Facebook who has been making a funny comment every day about that. One of the examples in his early going was, wow, there's this woman here on my sofa. She says she's my wife. She seems nice. And then the next day he said, well, I've been looking out the window watching the birds pull up worms. So far, it's Cardinals 3, Blue Jays 1. So I know that you've looked at the interpersonal relationship in marriages a lot, and I wonder if you'd speak to that.
Hey,
Sure.
Yeah.
Can I jump in for a second?
Sure.
I'm really curious about Marseille's condition in Spain. I know that Spain has had has really been hit hard with this. And I just wonder if we could hear a few words from him about what's going on where he's living.
I'm not sure he's going to be able to do that. He's been bathing. And that's why he's got the dolphins on the screen to block the view. But there he is. I haven't been able to unmute him, Tim. So
okay.
Well, he was bathing earlier, so he may be indisposed at the moment.
Yeah.
Okay,
well, I've got to take off here, but
all right, we'll try to hear from Marseille here in a moment. Thank you, sir. You never know. Okay. All right, Jean, forge ahead.
Okay, well, I love Joss's thoughts that this is the love virus from yesterday or Tuesday, I guess it was, and that we are being called to love now, and I totally agree with that. The associate editor of the New Yorker magazine wrote an article called Cooped Up yesterday or the day before, and said that when the social distancing restrictions were lifted in the city of Xi'an in China, the divorce rate spiked. And there's an American psychologist, Dr. Lawrence Birnbach, who predicts the same thing is going to happen in the States within the next, by the time the restrictions start backing off within 2 or 3 weeks, that the divorce rate will go up here as well. And I find that it very predictable, and I understand that. I think that we all know that divorce is a system that reflects the inequality of power in a marriage, and there are always dynamics in a marriage, a couple relationship, where one partner tends to be more willing to repress a lot of their feelings for the sake of keeping the peace. And it works really well when you're working apart from your partner all day and you only see each other every evening. That can be fine, that can work great. But then when you get cooped up all day, every day, my husband's working at home. He's downstairs. He has a telephone conference in a little while. I hope the sound from his teleconference doesn't impede mine and vice versa. And then little problems crop up, I had a friend who wrote yesterday, we didn't sign up for all day, every day, and it's true. I think we all have, having to rearrange our schedules and our lifestyles, and we're confronted with all these different situations every day, and we're anxious and uncertain about the coronavirus, and unconscious emotions are going to bubble up and they're going to occasionally swamp us. So for me, a lot of this is about emotional intelligence. I think that so many of us aren't terribly aware of how we're feeling and what our feelings are. We don't even realize maybe we're repressing our feelings, and we're not even aware that we're feeling annoyed or irritated or a little angry or sad. And so it's that lack of awareness of our emotions that can be the first problem. So I think the first thing I would say would be to try to be aware of your feelings, your emotions. Pay really close attention to what's going on in your inner life, especially your emotions. And don't repress them, but don't let them leap out either, you know, because you need to spend some time with them. What I have been doing is, if I notice a feeling or an emotion, I'll say, sometimes I'll just talk to myself and say, wow, you're feeling kind of irritated about this, aren't you? Just this morning, we're ordering our food and having food and groceries and some meals delivered. And so this morning, I put on my cell phone first thing when I woke up, and I found out that our delivery was not going to come today, and it may not come until tomorrow. So I finally got it figured out to find a delivery time from Costco tomorrow. And then all of a sudden my husband said, well, wait, I need some naan bread, you know, let's add that to the order. I said, okay, great. So I got back on my cell phone, and well, it wouldn't let me add it to that order. And I noticed myself starting to get really frustrated and irritated and annoyed, you know, just stress, just normal stress, because I didn't want to have to do that first thing in the morning. And so I had to talk to myself and say, hey, you know, you're getting a little annoyed here. So I'm not repressing the annoyance. I'm not pretending it's not there. I'm not ignoring it, but I'm noticing it and talking to myself and saying, you're feeling irritable. So at my husband's suggestion, I went to my major computer. It worked fine there. I was able to add it to my order. My order is going to be delivered tomorrow and everything's fine. And meanwhile, I was still feeling annoyed and frustrated because I'd had to do that. And then I thought, you know, you're still annoyed, Jeannie, back off. Think about, you know, choose love, back off, choose love, choose to love yourself, choose to love this moment, choose to love the place I'm in right now, and let go of that annoyance. You felt annoyed. Okay, now it's over, isn't it? And sure enough, it was over. So the point is not to hide from your emotions or ignore them or just deny them, but just to see them and say, yeah, this is how I feel, and then choose love. And again, I mean self-love, because without self-love, you can't love others, you know. So I think a couple relationship is just the absolute perfect container. It's a school for growing up, for becoming individuated, and for becoming spiritually mature, psychologically whole and spiritually mature. And I think it's the perfect school for that. We learn from our partners every day, and we can choose to pay attention and work on ourselves, or we can choose to blame, you know. And so again, my first thing would be to make a renewed commitment to attend to your inner life at this time. Take what's going on inside of you very seriously, hear what it is. Name your emotions, name your feelings. There was a time when I was going through a lot of self-criticism, and I could hear myself being very critical of myself. And so I started noticing when I would do that, certain times in the morning, I would start feeling self-critical, and these thoughts would come in, and I started naming it. I called it my critical bully. So Jung said that we need to name and personify the inner forces in us that are creating problems for us. So my critical bully was really creating problems. And he often showed up as a he in my dreams, as a male in my dreams who would, you know, be critical of me or bully me or something, or be trying to hurt me or make me feel bad about myself. So I think of my critical bully as a male, but every now and then I'll have a critical female in my dreams as well. So it doesn't really matter whether it's male or female. You know, there is a part of me that is self-critical and can be critical of others as well. So I have to name that so that the next time I feel negative or annoyed or irritated or there's tension coming up, I have to name the critical bully. Oh, here you are. And let's get back to loving Jeannie instead of giving her a hard time, you know? So that would be another, the tip. Stay self-aware, name those inner forces, give them names, personify them.
Yeah, Jeannie, I wonder, I just want to share something on the screen that you may want to address too, because this is the yin yang symbol, and as it relates to husband and wife, and it emphasizes the fact that we are different. We bring different things to a partnership, and you know, to a marriage or what have you. And we have to, you know, we're not whole by ourselves, and so we attain wholeness by having a partner. It's not always a different sex partner. It might be same-sex partner, but we bring different things to the party. This is only a top-level idea here, but the idea is that this is always changing, and when one changes in one way, another will change in a reciprocal way. So the idea of a marriage is that we share and learn from one another as our lives go forward. But would you speak to that? I'm going to take that off the screen now, but just go ahead.
Yes, the psyche does not have a gender. Psyche and soul mean the same thing. The soul does not have a gender. If you believe in past lives and future lives, you know that people who do believe in that believe that you can come back as any gender, next you can come back as a whatever, a dog. Whether or not you believe that, the point is that the human psyche is genderless. Our gender has to do with our physical body, and certainly there are hormonal differences between males and females. But in terms of the psyche having a gender, it doesn't. It's a combination of the opposites. So yes, if you can think of it, I find a happy, helpful metaphor for this is left brain, right brain. You mentioned that earlier. The left hemisphere tends to be a little more masculine oriented, logical. The right hemisphere of the brain tends to be more eros, relationship, receptive, oriented toward feeling, tender feelings, and so on. And these are kinds of stereotypes that are based basically on certain differences in the brain, but they don't need to be projected onto males and females and say only women can be feeling and only men can be logical. That's the ridiculous part of all this that I'm trying to overcome in all my writing. My next book is about exactly that. So yes, the point is, despite our differences with whomever we share our lives, instead of typecasting or limiting ourselves and each other to roles, we've got to just say, I have all this potential. My psyche has all this potential that we call masculine, and it has all this potential that we call feminine. And we have all these same archetypes. I can mother children, and my husband can mother his children, and I can father our family, and my husband can father our family. We all have the same thing. So if we can just get beyond the stereotypes and start accepting that I have all of this and you have all of this, then we can learn from each other. And I can learn. I've gained enormous self-confidence and strength in myself just from being married to my husband, because he's an ESTJ. I mean, he's the opposite except for the J. And I've gotten so much from his extroverted thinking, logical way of approaching life that was there in me all the time, but my personality hadn't been developing it so much because I was drawn more to the inner life and the emotion and feeling and imaginative life. So yes, then the issues we have to learn to listen to each other. And I have a way of doing that as well. But have I answered your question, Tim, about about the wholeness? First of all, that the idea is for us to consciously unite our feminine archetypal, energies with our masculine archetypal energies, and find that middle place where we can have a dialogue between them, that mandorla, the two circles that interact, and that central space that's like an almond shape. That mandorla is that magical creative space of dialogue where the two opposites can come together and at least learn how to talk. Yes, thank you. That's it. You see the circles at the top and at the bottom and how they overlap? And that is those almond-shaped spaces where the circles interconnect are called a mandorla. That's a very ancient symbol. It's not the mandala. The mandala is the circle. The mandorla is where the circles overlap. So you think of the two circles as two separate entities, two forms of energy that interact, and it's like a chemical interaction, Jung said, when two personalities connect and they begin to carry on a dialogue in that central space of mutual desire to understand and communicate, then you have, that's the space, that's the holy space of healing. When you start trying to create a dialogue and when you start listening to the other instead of insisting that your way is the only way or the right way. When you open up to the otherness in yourself, your ego is opening up to the self. You create a mandorla there as well. So it's all about uniting these opposites for us to become whole within, and that's how we can move closer to wholeness in our outer lives. There, I think I may have said what you wanted to hear now. Is that it? You're turned off. I can't hear you.
Yes, I definitely did. Thank you so much, Jeannie. I think since Marseille has come back, oh, he left again.
Oh, there you
go. Marseille, I know that all of us are very worried about Spain, and we've been looking at the coronavirus numbers in Spain. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about what you're facing in Spain. I've unmuted you now, so you could tell us a little bit about what's going on in Spain.
Well, I am at home, so I don't really have much contact. I live in the countryside, and therefore I am not so connected. Well, I go to the post office in my little town here, and everything is kind of quiet and empty, except on the weekends that the people came to the country. But my brother and sister, they live in Madrid, and they do have a quite restricted situation, and they're feeling more this anguish of being incarcerated, kind of how you are saying. So if they still are able to do their shoppings, then they kind of cope with this situation. The government is playing a very bad role. The government, I mean, all our politicians are the worst, the worst. I mean, they are showing very childish, as if nothing is really happening, and they are making numbers on their own behalf, and nothing is really changing. Nothing is really changing. Everything is uncertain. I think they are considering to do more time of prison, and it might be true. And this is also because of social media. I think people is becoming more and more aware, and also the people without resources, they are also getting more angry, because then, you know, Spain is a very compassionate country and very tolerant. We've been learning through a war of brothers to share in a very strange, depressive and castrated way, but at the same time to care for each other. It's very, very complicated. But this is coming to a point of no way, because people cannot eat. So now the things are in that place, and as people become more aware, people is starting the revolution idea is starting to come. In this way, I don't know if that would have an impact. And myself, I am suffering from some ideas of what would it be, what would happen, what can that be? Are the tests real tests, or are the tests the danger in itself? And that is so what I can say at the moment. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Marcia. Obviously, this rising anguish that people have is very concerning, and the idea that people are already thinking about revolution, because we, in this country, in their infinite wisdom, many of our localities have refused to close down gun shops. And I think the president even said, you know, you don't have to close down gun shops. But, you know, it's not that it's a real issue for the United States, because we already have 350 million guns out there in the country. So if there's going to be trouble because of this, then we're going to have it no matter what. And so it's very concerning. And I think all of us need to work to help balance the mental health of everyone in our community. And so what we've been trying to encourage is that everybody stay in touch with 5 other people at least, so that you can help them to deal with their mental health. Normally these things we control by talking to friends over the garden fence, or by going to a tea shop or a coffee shop and talking with friends, or going to a sporting event and meet with friends. But now, because we don't have that, we have to find other ways to do that sort of thing. Okay, let's go around the room a little bit. Cynthia, could you tell us something about what's happening in your life, and what you're thinking about dealing with your mental health and your balancing?
Well, strangely, I have been getting more and more calm. I had been, for about a year, I had been in a depression, and let's just say not very stable, like not very functional. And since this happened, it's almost like the rest of the world adjusted to the disharmony I was already in. So I feel kind of like more simpatico with the rest of the world. 'Cause I guess I felt like before this happened, I was the only one in distress. Now that the whole world is in distress, I feel like I can relate now.
Very interesting.
Does that seem strange?
No, it doesn't seem strange, and let me show you why.
Okay.
I'm going to share the logo that Tim prepared for us for this activity, which is called The Rescuing Angel. And there's a poem that many of us like, because Dr. Young mentioned it many times. It's a poem called Patmos, and the poem begins, the translations vary, but anyway, the poem begins with these two lines: where danger is, there grows, let's see, where danger is, grows also the rescuing power. And so whether or not you believe in angels, it doesn't matter. The point is that there is a part of us that comes forth and fulfills the needs of our society when it becomes necessary. And so I'm hopeful that as we proceed with this process of interacting with people around the world, that will not only help one another, but also allow for balancing in the world. And so I would encourage everyone who is either here or on YouTube to join us each time. We're doing this Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday every week for the foreseeable future at the same time, 11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, or U.S. Eastern Time, think of it that way. And so, and those of you who are on YouTube, I'd urge you to also join us in the panel. We have room for 100 people here. So, and it may seem like I'm skipping over people, but a few of us know each other from our advanced reading group. I'm going to mainly focus on new visitors at first, so that we can hear from you, because we don't know you, and then as we go forward, we may introduce ourselves as well. Gemma, can you unmute and speak to us for a moment?
Yeah, hi. So did you want me to just talk about how things are going?
Yeah, for one thing, just yes, but just remind me where you live and what country or state.
So I'm in Nottingham in the UK, which is in the Midlands.
Right. So go ahead. Tell us how you're coping with this, and what could we learn from you about how your country out of the UK is dealing with it, and so on.
Well, so personally, I live alone, which is something that I've always treasured, but now I'm finding it quite difficult. You know, just being very isolated, and I I feel for the most part quite calm. I really identified with what Cynthia was saying. I'm sleeping better than I probably ever have, which is interesting. But I'm also, you know, feeling a lot of horror and worry for people. Yesterday I had a lot of anger come up, and I just tried to sort of let that come up without judging it. I realized that I was feeling like there were certain things I was allowed to feel, like I was allowed to feel sad and scared. I was allowed to feel gratitude for the relative privilege that I have, but I didn't feel like I was allowed to be angry for what I've lost. So it was helpful to just give myself some permission around that. And in terms of the UK, I mean, it's just, I've seen letters going out from people's GPs to people who are physically vulnerable because of their age or their pre-existing conditions, telling them they should sign DNRs. It just, yeah, and the ordering of ventilators and masks and all the same things that other places are seeing is, it's very scary. And I don't find it shocking, but I'm still outraged to see it all unfolding. Yeah.
Right. And so how's the Prime Minister doing with his coronavirus?
Yeah, I mean, he's okay as far as I know, but there's confusion about the fact that people in the media who have said that they have it then go on to self-isolate for 7 days, which isn't the guidance that everyone else is being given, and it's just very confusing. But yeah, just a feeling of just bumbling and incompetence everywhere.
Well, let me just mention to you that this group got started about a week and a half ago. In fact, yeah, because Tim Holmes, our artist, my co-founder and artist friend, is also feeling very isolated. And so this is one way for him to have community also. So I hope that you will join us as often as you can. Just to mention to everyone, including everyone on YouTube, that the link for this session is different whether it's Thursday, Sunday, or Tuesday. And the reason is that I could only set it up that way. And so the link will not be the same on Sunday, and it will not be the same on Tuesday. And so you can check at archetypeinaction.com, or I will be putting out more notices. I guess I could put the link for the people that are here. And so what I will do is I'll try to put the links on by day so that everybody knows where we're going to be on given days. So anyway, Robbie Busfield, could you tell us about you and where you are? Can't hear you. I'm going to unmute you, Robbie.
I'm muted apparently. Oh, hang on, I see.
No, we can hear you now.
Oh, you can hear me. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can turn this around and switch on my video so you can also see me. I'm not sure, it's kind of dark over here. It's still coming into our morning time, so it's just.
Where are you, Robbie? Tell us where you are.
I'm in Hawaii.
On
Oahu with Joss.
Uh-huh.
I'm one of Joss's friends.
Thank you for joining us.
Can you see me? I'm trying to put my video on.
Cannot see you yet.
Hang on a sec. Let Zoom use your webcam. Okay. Oh, it's a bit dark. Hang on a sec. Let me see if I can.
Quick question, Skip, while she's getting light, let there be
Right.
light. Were people having trouble getting on, registering and getting on as participants today? My friend from FEMA was going to join us today, and of course he has some, you know, more information than even what's in the news, and he was unable, he registered but was unable to get on. It may have been that he registered too late, I don't know, but was there a problem?
No, you should still be able to register even now. So you could check back with him. It may be that he had the wrong link.
Well, I sent him the registration link from what you sent me, not my personal link as a panel link, but the one that you had marked as for everyone else.
Yeah.
He's actually working from home. He's with FEMA. He is a retired firefighter, and he is instrumental working from home online, trying to keep our service and emergency people up to date.
Okay, I'm going to put the Thursday link on here again right now, so maybe you could
send that to him.
Send that to him, and he will, when he comes online, I have to promote him to a panelist. And so I'm trying to watch the attendees and promote people to panelists as they log on, but I might have missed him.
Okay. Well, he didn't really want to come on as a panelist because he is working an 8-hour, 10-hour, 12-hour day.
Yeah, he doesn't have to have his video on. But we would have to be able to hear him, obviously.
Exactly. He may have some good information for us.
Okay, so we're gonna let we're gonna let Robbie go on though. Thank you, Deborah. Go ahead, Robbie.
Hi. So I'm in Oahu and I've been listening for a little bit. I came on maybe 15 minutes ago and I listened. Jossie had sent me your video from YouTube, I guess from the last time you guys were shared, and I listened to some of that, and it was really beautiful listening to your just really sharing all the heartfelt messages, you know, about what's going on in the world right now, how we can come together. I feel like that is something that you were sharing the other day that was really important, that this time on the planet, it really is a coming together for humanity. You know, there has been, a lady had mentioned, I'm not sure who it was the other day, that, you know, generally there's a lot of separation that occurs, and now on the planet, you know, this is really getting our attention. It's getting together to help each other, to support each other, and there's such a joining on the planet at the moment, and a lot of people questioning life, questioning, you know, pain, the thought of even, you know, maybe even death. You know, a lot of people are really questioning God, and it's really, it's so, it's just such a heartfelt time. So very sad in many regards. There's a lot of outpouring of faith, a lot of outpouring of kindness right now, and you can really feel that on the planet. You can feel that everywhere, and this is a great setup to help people to really come together and can see, so we can really see what's happening and people are joining around the world. So thank you.
Yeah,
this is Morky.
Thank you for joining us today. We're glad that you're here. I realize that it's quite early for you in Honolulu, so anyway, thank you for coming. Let's see. Pablo is in Peru, and Pablo is going to be participating in a similar effort in Spanish for people in Latin America. So is he still here? Oh yes, there he is. Yeah. So Pablo, I wonder if you'd say a few words about what's going on in Peru and Chile and the rest of Latin America.
It's very different situations in Chile and Peru. In Peru, we are in complete lockdown since I guess it's like 18 days already, and we're going until April the 12th at least. And the rumors say that it's going to be until the end of April in the end, but the government hasn't issued that officially yet. And in Chile, there is not a complete lockdown. They're going with a strategy very similar to what England did at first. And they are now slowly closing some pieces of the city, but not the rest. So they have, I think, around 3,500 cases, and here in Peru we have around 1,000. So it's very different, and here people have been very civilized, most of the country at least, about going to just shopping, or and only pharmacies and banks are open. There in Chile, everything is open in places where there's no quarantine, so it's really different situations in both sides. And personally, it's been a little bit crazy. I just moved to Peru on March the 3rd. I was in the process of renting my new house, staying at a friend's house while the lockdown came. So I'm staying at where we're staying, my wife and my kid and my dog at the friend's house so far. And now we don't really know what to do with the renting of the other place when the lockdown is lifted, because probably as the economy is taking turmoils too, we don't really know what we're going to do, or if even the price will be fair when we go out of here, if we go out soon. So it's a little bit crazy around here, really. Very uncertain, at least for me.
Yeah, at least for all of us. Thank you, Pablo. And tell us again what time your Spanish broadcast is. Pablo's Spanish language broadcast can be found by going to the Archetype in Action website. I will put that, I will put the link to it both on the YouTube and the and on this chat, and so you can go there and find the article about the coronavirus check-in, and then there's a link to Pablo's timings, which are in the evening on Sunday. But Pablo, could you just tell us, since you're here?
Yeah, it's gonna be Sunday evenings. It's 7 p.m. Peru. It's 6 p.m. I'm sorry. It's 8 p.m. in the U.S. Eastern Time Zone, 6 p.m. on the West Coast, I guess, or 5 p.m. West Coast of the U.S. And that's the time zone that we're gonna work with. And I already had a meeting last Sunday with a bunch of people that I have been working with. So we did kind of the same thing. The only difference is that we ended up with a meditation to just kind of relax before going to sleep on Sunday. And we're gonna have the same process as we're doing here. Just talk about what's going on, our feelings, our emotions, so we can leave them a little bit, just like Jean said, stay there for a while, let them be for a second or a minute if we need, and then stay here each Sunday. It will be once a week, but it's going to be each Sunday.
Thank you. Kushbu, are you still here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Kushbu is in India, so I thought I would give her the honor of the distance guest here. And so tell us what's going on in India the last couple of days.
Namaste. Namaste, everybody. There are around 25 million laborers are traveling, like just walking across the cities to their villages. These cities without any support. They're just walking with some biscuits and plastic water bottles.
Oh my gosh.
And they're walking from, and
So they just they
every day
spontaneously
more than
because they didn't have any work, they just started walking home. Is that the idea, Kushbu, or what?
Yeah, that's the thing. Everything is shut down, no transport is left, and they earn to eat every day. So in the cities, they say that if we are in our village, somebody will at least feed us. Here, that's not, even that is not possible. So they just started walking, and so it means that we will not even know the real number of deaths coming because of the virus. And
Right.
like virus is spreading, and it's gonna kill the labor class here. Like
Oh, that's gonna be terrible.
lower
Well,
level daily.
keep,
So the that's the harsh reality. Second thing is, it's I feel little blue today. As I think Cynthia said, Cynthia, if I'm like Cynthia said that it makes sense. Like I can connect with the world now, and it is so sad for me that last two years, but it feels like that I have been prepared for this time. Like I'm able to help people finally back again in my life, because like I know what's happening, because I know how I felt for last 2 years. And so it is like I'm bonding with the world back because of the melancholy I have experienced, I've lived with, I've nurtured myself being in that situation. I had to nurture myself being in that situation, and I feel that like that is if it is a projection, then I'm not proud of it.
well, what have you
And the
done
thing
to nurture yourself, Kushbu? What have you been doing to nurture yourself?
I trusted my instincts and followed the truth. My biggest problem was that I don't like respond to the anxiety. I can just make a blind face, and because I had to deal with, like, I'm a social worker and I have to deal with death of the people. I have to deal with malevolence of the society, and I have to help out. Like that's professionally I do. So what I give you one example how so like 2 years back I took one dog who was who felt like who was in a major accident. It took us 3 hours to reach there. The moment the dog was safe and everything was fine, like I put the dog on the table and doctor started attending that dog, I fainted. That is how I respond to crisis. I have like I had to perform funerals of a few orphan bodies because I had no, like, I don't wanted to give those bodies to the government, and I'm like, I am their friend and I am taking that custody. So whenever I have done that, like throughout I will be talking professionally and all those things. The moment those process is over, my response of my body is like, I don't cry, I don't do drama, I just faint. So so I'm worried about that. I am behaving strong again, and it's not good for me. So yeah, that's
Well,
the third.
take deep breaths. Take deep breaths.
And the third there's a third thing.
Go ahead.
It's my birthday today.
Oh, happy birthday!
Thank you.
How old are you? How old are you? today?
I finished 30. I finished 30 today. Yo.
Oh wow! I thought, you know, when I was 30, I thought I was going to feel like an old codger, and I thought I would feel bad. But then when I had my 30th birthday, I didn't feel anything at all. But the day I was 31, a year from now for you, all of a sudden, man, it hit me like a ton of bricks. so anyway, well,
Well, I don't regret like a single part of it. Like I want to go to 60s, you know.
Yeah.
All my friends are like those age, and I'm like I'm there already. Just my body is not. It's confined with the time bound thing.
Right. So Khushbu, as you know, I have many friends in India, and I'm very worried about them. I've made 44 trips to India since 1994, and because I've had a business there for many years, and so we are anxious to keep in contact with India and know what's going on, and I hope you'll continue to check in with us, and also tell your friends about our 3-time-a-week gatherings so that we can learn the stories of others. I very much appreciate you being here today. I'm gonna go on to Joss, who has. Go ahead.
I want to make a last request that
okay.
I have a. I'm sorry. One sec. Yoda, come here. Come here. It's okay. Good boy. Good boy. Yoda. Okay. So I want to end this. When we end this call, I have one sloka, which means Loka Samastha Sukhino Bhavantu. All the people, like we are saying Amen to for the welfare and well-being of all the people of the world. It means Loka Samastha Sukhino Bhavantu. So I wanted to end our call with that prayer, if may I allow.
Yeah, surely. When we end the call, I will certainly come to you to end it for us. So I want to move to Joss right now, though, who has for the second time gotten up at 5 in the morning and brought 2 of her friends from Honolulu. So Joss, tell us, how are we doing here? I'm gonna unmute you. You and I are dueling on unmutes. Let me do it for you. Okay, there you are.
Okay, all right. Well, first of all, I'm glad my other friends came in, Robbie and Marianne from Honolulu. And we're like soul sisters here. We're pretty international too. Robbie's from originally from Australia, and Marianne is from Sweden. So Skip, we've joined an international group of friends here. And everybody, I just want to say aloha to you. Aloha means love. If you don't know, aloha, the ha means breath. So everybody, I want you to all take a deep breath. When I count to 3, take a deep breath, inhale, and then exhale. 1, 2, 3. Inhale and exhale. And I want you to all think of the breath, because that's the breath of life. And this love virus, fortunately, loves the lungs. So please take care of yourself, stay healthy. I call it the love virus because it's really bringing everybody together. And we have to put a positive spin on this. Like you said, Skip, the yin and the yang, we have to bring harmony to the whole world, and including ourselves. Like Jean was saying, it's bringing together the left brain and the right brain. It's all that yin and yang. And the coronavirus is really a manifestation of the collective consciousness. So we need to counter that with love. Right now, the world is all in turmoil. There's a lot of anger, maybe a lot of hatred going on too. So we have to counter that with love. And I just wanted to, since I'm in my kitchen and I have this sign on my kitchen all the time, it says here, and I want to read it to you as a prayer for all of us. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. So keep that in mind and stay focused on your breath, the appreciation and total gratitude of that we are alive and live on internet here, and we're still an international community as one. So take it away, Skip. You're doing a great job. I love you. Hello?
You're muted, Skip.
Oh,
Skip.
now.
Oh, thank you so much, Joss. And let me quickly now go to Terry Strickland, who is my dear friend from 58 years, believe it or not. And she knew me when I was 15. So she knows about me from long ago. But she's joined us today for the first time. And so Terry, tell us about Kentucky.
We have a wonderful governor, and my husband Mark and I worked very hard to get him elected. And Andy Beshear's his name. He has if everyone is sitting down with a cup of tea and he's like a warm blanket every day at 5 o'clock, he has a news conference and tells us what's going on. He's encouraging positive social media. So he shows stuff on, he also shows slides of positive things that are going on in the state and the community, things the children are doing, and positive messages. And then he also gives us all the statistics and encourages everyone to, right as he starts every day, he says, we're going to get through this. We're going to get through this together, and has everybody say that. In Kentucky, we're blessed to have him. I shudder to think what would be happening to us if we had our other governor instead of him. So for that, he's uniting us, and every time someone passes, he announces he talks about everything, and he has a wonderful and deaf interpreter, and here every time we lose someone, the Capitol and his home at the Capitol, which I live in Frankfort, which is the capital of Kentucky, it's all lit up in green to show compassion that night. And people are encouraged to do that. We had, in our neighborhood, the teachers had a parade, and they ran all their cars were decorated, and they ran through all the neighborhood to tell the kids how much they missed them and honking their horns. And we're trying to do as much as we can as a community and as citizens and as Kentuckians, and to stay united. And there's a huge message for that. The other day I went out and decorated our fire hydrant. I figured the kids, they're on like a scavenger hunt. So if you got stuffed animals or bears, you put them in the windows and the kids go through and count them. And I didn't think they had enough. So we turned our fire hydrant, we gave her a facelift and turned her into Hot Lips. She's all decorated. I don't know. I said, arrest me if you can't find the fire hydrant now. Your problem. So there's a lot of hope, and we're positive. My husband, I'm really grateful I have this husband and not the other one to be home with. I have a wonderful partner. We take long walks in a cemetery. Love it. It's safe. It's interesting, and we've been doing a lot of that.
Terry, do you have a photograph of the fire hydrant you could show us just
honey,
for fun?
I've got it.
Or
Yeah, it's on my phone. Hang
well, or the
on a second. Mark's got my phone. Yeah, I do. Her name is Hot Lips, and I have a before and after. Well, she looked okay. Here's before. Can you see? That's before.
okay.
And this is her makeover.
Okay, that's not ideal, but if you ask Mark to get the picture onto the computer or whatever it is you're talking to us through, and then we can share it on the chat after a few minutes.
Okay.
I'll come back to you while you're doing that.
Okay.
I'm going to move on to Penelope now, who's in the UK. So Penelope, are you compos mentis? Can you speak to us?
It's been, you know, I've sort of had a, you know, you think this thing is going and then it sort of hits you back. It actually works like a wave, this virus. And, you know, it's very confusing because once I'm saying I have it, I've not been tested. So you can feel like a bit like a fraud almost. I mean, I hate to say this, put that way, it's the wrong word, but I feel like, you know, being that unwell for 23 days and then think it's gone, and then you have like symptoms that reappear, and that's the way it seems to work, like a wave. So it's very interesting. They've been saying flatten this wave, but the wave is also internal in its expression, which is really interesting. The other thing that concerns me, that as I've begun to dig deeper into it, or in my own thoughts, is that I don't know, there's a big question, you know, how many people have got this? Because I only know myself 13 people currently, only 4 that I don't know that have said they've been tested. And I did speak to my doctor this morning and I said, look, I'm a bit concerned where this is going, because now I've developed a cough in the last 24 hours. And I said, how do I know that I'm safe? So it can create a hell of a lot of fear in one being isolated on their own. And then the reality, you know, is this, what would the word be? Is this real, or is this something that's been created, you know, put into our minds that this exists? And I've got a lot of questions at the moment, and it's only going to be with time that we're going to know what the reality of this is. I'm going on, but I need to add one more thing. I saw an article. We have a paper in the United Kingdom called the Evening Standard, which is a clean paper in my view. It's very much for advertising business and the local business news and news in London. And London's quite a huge area. And they reported that there were some test kits that have been actually contaminated with the virus in the UK. And I doubt very much they would have put that on their paper unless that would have been absolute truth. And that's very concerning as well. So any thoughts on anybody who thinks currently who has this, and how many people do you out there know who have this?
Well, I think it's been abroad in the United States a lot more broadly than we think. And both Debbie and I were ill in February. And one day in particular we were. It's funny, I'm blessed with terrible allergies, so I have to take shots for my allergies, and what the shots do is that it stimulates my immune system to resist anything that it doesn't like. Yeah. And so I may have I'm hoping that it gives me a stronger immune system, so I can fight these things off. But Deb and I were both ill like you for quite a while. It took a long time to shake it, and and right now, and so we think that we may have also been through it already, but we just don't know for sure because we
and the other thing I wanted to address was the immune system with, you know, and yourself, Skip, understanding PTSD and complex PTSD with, you know, years of childhood trauma, and the amount of people that currently have that who are, you know, my age at 50, working through their, because of the Chiron return in astrology, which the Chiron return, which is healing of the wound. When we get to about 50 in astrology, it's shown that a lot of people do have a bit of a breakdown, because what's going on astrologically is that you're being given the opportunity to heal, you know, what was unhealed. So as myself, I had a breakdown which was quite fruitful to me around age 50, a lot of losses in my life, and was able then to look at my own shadow and my own wound. And that's the time I found Skip, you know, maybe a year after that. And I think that the immune system has really been bashed, or it's for people that have had childhood trauma, their immune systems are, you know, because they've spent so much time in fight and flight, they do have generally a compromised immune system somewhat as well. So it's another issue that mankind that we need to address, and hopefully as we move through this and come out the other end, you know, a lot of people are there's gonna be some deep healing of unresolved traumas, not only in the individual but collectively. And maybe that, you know, being so freaked out and scared by this will wipe out a lot of the original trauma, because, you know, for me, this is almost a bigger fear than my original trauma, because it's so important now to me that I live. You know, I've got a reason right now to live. So
right. And I think we're faced with a time where everybody is going to have some form of PTSD out of this.
Yeah, everybody has it to a degree. Everybody has it.
Surely, surely.
So that's it from me.
Could I address her, Skip? I'm
all right.
Penelope.
Yeah.
I'm Deborah.
Go ahead, Deborah. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, people like me were talked about by our president just 2 days ago. I have lupus, so therefore I basically have no immune system, and it is terrifying. I'm also totally alone, and I just want to tell you that I have immersed myself in this group. I knew Skip prior, but I've immersed, and it has been a huge help for me. But those of us with a compromised immune system, we do have to stay completely isolated, and it is going to reach beyond the, you know, people, depending on what country you're in, it's going to reach beyond just a couple of weeks, a couple of months. We really need to seclude ourselves, especially if you have had the virus. With a weakened immune system, you will not completely fight it off, and it will keep recurring like malaria. I know that from my own rheumatologist. So I just wanted to give you that information, since I'm very much aware of it, and tell you to be as sequestered as possible. I've been sequestered since January, and
I've been, you know, I sort of was on Ester C, vitamin C, but Ester C in vitamin C has, it's better for the stomach because it is buffered. And so I started off on 3 grams a day and emptying capsules into warm water. But now I've been on 10 grams a day, and now I've gone back to 5 grams a day of the vitamin C and zinc. And my foods are very high grade, as you know, the foods. I don't have any sugar in my diet. So I have been looking after my physical, and that's good that you pointed out with the, you know, that little wave that comes back, is that the immune system is struggling a bit. It's not just like bouncing off. That's good to remember.
The virus itself does keep coming back. I'm a writer, editor, publisher, and I have an author in Scotland, you know, just north of you, who her and her female partner have literally had it. They thought they had got through the first wave and it was all over and they were fine. And now they both got sick again. One of them now is doing well, but unfortunately, my dear friend and author that I work for, her partner is not doing well, and we are extremely worried about her. And this is like, I think in the past 2 months, this is like the 3rd time it has come back. They also have a compromised immune systems, and from PTSD and mental illness type problems, their immune system is compromised. So these are people that are in my life, even though I have to be totally sequestered, who I see going through this. And I would also recommend to you with your vitamin C to go to the vitamin C with iron supplement, because I'm finding that my with the immune system problem, I'm also running into a high white blood cell, low red blood cell. But then I've also had surgery too. But still, if you could go to the vitamin C with iron, I recommend that for you. Okay, and God blessing to you.
I'm glad that I had some blood tests done in December, and my iron levels are they're up, they're quite good. So that was good news. My iron levels are good. So but it's good because too much can be detrimental as well with the iron. So one has to not.
Yeah, let's be very careful about recommending dosages, though.
Exactly.
Because everyone is different. We're not, with the exception of Joss, I think we're not medical doctors here, and Joss is a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
But I'm, I never go above 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C, and I had a friend years ago who developed a kidney stone from too much vitamin C, and it was extremely painful for her. And so, she cleared it finally. But I recommend, if you're sick, definitely. My wife and I just take a 500 milligram every day just for normal vitamin usage. But, be very careful, be watchful of your overall health when you start to dose higher than just your regular vitamins. I urge you.
Absolutely. It's better when one speaks to a nutritionist or a health provider to check, or a doctor before they do any levels. Agree with that.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to go to Ken Farmer, who's joined us, and is a new person to the group. So, Ken, I'm going to unmute you. Can you say hello to us if your mic is working? Okay. So, Ken, if you can hear us, unmute your mic, but otherwise, so that we can speak to you, but otherwise I'm going to put you back on mute. Okay. Let's see.
Ken Farmer is the guy that was trying to get on his.
Oh, he is. Okay. Ken.
But he is working as well. So.
Right, but we cannot hear you. So, do you have some wisdom for us, Ken? Okay, I'm not hearing Ken.
Okay.
Pardon?
Let's send him a text to turn his mic on and speak with us.
Okay.
If he can.
I'll leave Ken unmuted. So if he joins us, then he'll be able to speak. Is Jerome there? I lost track of Jerome here on my screen.
I'm here.
Oh, you are here. Okay, there you are. I just don't see you on my screen, but
too many people.
Right. Well, that's a good problem to have. I'm
yeah.
sorry we haven't gotten to the YouTube chat during this, and I urge those of you on YouTube, I've put the link on the YouTube chat a number of times. So if you wish to join us, please do so. And go through that link and just register, and you'll be able to join us on the panel.
Okay.
But go ahead.
Yeah. Anyway, in North Carolina, I'm more of an introverted, intuitive type. So in terms of my day to day, I'm kind of like Gene. I have things to do that, I can, too busy actually. So, but at the same time, it's very terrifying to go out now because people are not paying attention to safe distancing or you know, I really thought we should be wearing masks all along, and now they're saying, oh, we should wear a mask, but you can't wear a mask because the health professionals need them first, so they get priority, which is to be expected. But you know, I'm really disappointed because I have to wear masks because, like you, Skip, I have allergies, and we're in the high pollen season here in North Carolina, and so my nose is just operating. But anytime I go outside to work, I have to put on a mask, so I'm used to wearing masks. But and then they just implemented a law that says Asheville is a very tourist attraction, and people are losing a lot of money from the tourists. Excuse me, let's gotta get this. I can't get this. Well, I don't know what's wrong. Hold on a minute. Let me get this. Okay, thank you. Sorry. Anyway, the law is that if you come into town from out of state or a visitor and get a motel room, you can stay for one night. And the next night, you got to get out of town. So if you decide you want to come and stay, you have to sequester yourself and stay 14 days.
Wow.
And this is because they were finding that people in high risk areas were wanting to come to a low risk area. And they wanted to avoid that. So they said the only way we can control it. So it's kind of a trade-off, but
yeah, sure.
You know, you can still come, but you still have to self quarantine for 14 days. So these are some of the rules that are going in. But, you know, as I said, I'm really going through this terror and going out, but I do have some neighbors, older neighbors that I'm taking care of and getting things for. And so I feel like I'm reaching out and do have communications. I also would like to thank Jean for what she gave to us. And I was looking at her blog, which is just marvelous. I really loved it. And particularly the one that says the sacred laws of the psych. It's called The Law of Choice. And that really hit me because, you know, we can look at this and say, you know, just be completely discombobulated, or we can get the courage together and say, well, you know, I have a choice. What can I do? Positive choice. And so I think one of the things Skip has done this, which is this is his contribution. And so I really love the fact that, and I appreciate you coming on, Gene. So
Skip and Tim and all the rest of you too, because many of you are part of our advanced group, and I do appreciate all of you joining us. And one other thing I'll observe, I think that we should be wearing masks. Terry and I grew up in Japan partially, and in Japan, everybody wears a mask all the time when they're sick, and also to avoid getting sick, especially in the wintertime. And so on the YouTube chat, I've just put Jean Raffa's, the link to Jean Raffa's blog so that you can take a look at that. And so, Nancy, can you say hello to us and tell us how you're doing?
Yes.
And
I seem to be up and down. Yesterday I was quite out of energy, kind of depressed, made my day a little simpler, focused on things that were beautiful. One little thing that caught my eye in the kitchen were some lemons and some limes sitting together and the sun shining on them and the beautiful colors. And that touched me so deeply that I could carry that with me throughout the day. It was very helpful. Our governor has brought the National Guard activated as of yesterday. I'm not sure yet what they all will be doing, but for some reason that gives me some comfort. I think because there's a sense of uncertainty, like everyone has mentioned. That seems to be the word of the day. And that somehow gives me a little comfort. But I wanted to thank Gina, especially in her book on Healing the Sacred Divide for Chapter 13, the Divine Feminine as Holistic Perception. Because of my experience with Divine Feminine last summer, when I read this, it just was like an embrace, a welcome. Go girl, you go girl. Thanks, Jean.
Well, that's great. I'm glad you all are reading it. I read it in manuscript form years ago, and I was extremely moved by Jean's writing that book. And I remember I sat down and almost didn't do anything for 10 days while I read her book. And one night I was just, I almost was near the end, but I kept reading and reading and reading. And finally at 5 o'clock in the morning, I got to the end, and I was just blubbering. I was so moved by the things that she had said in that book. And so I think if you check the back of the dust cover, you might find my comment on her book.
And it was very lovely. Thank you so much again for that. It was a beautiful comment.
You're welcome. I don't know if Ken Farmer, are you able to talk with us? I don't know if you can as yet. I've left you unmuted so that we could hear from you.
He is working, so he's not able to join in the conversation, but
okay,
he is listening and
all right.
So,
All right, terrific. So I think I apologize to those of you that are on the YouTube chat because we've not been able to get back to you. And my vision is now struggling because I have a cataract in my eye. And so I'm not going to be able to come back to the YouTube chat today, but I want to especially thank Miles and Carl Andrews, who are two people that I have been interacting with for a long while, for helping keep that YouTube chat going. And I appreciate that. And I'm going to share an image that Tim had shown me some time ago, and instantly when I saw it, I said, "Sold, you can send it to me, please." And I bought it instantly as soon as I saw this image, and it's very meaningful to me. And I've put it. Whoops! Somebody has taken over. There's Terry's fire hydrant there on the left side of that screen. So that's Hot Lips, and that's what she's done. Anyway, Terry or Mark, could you discontinue that? Thank you. Okay, I appreciate that. You definitely got it to us though. Okay, so anyway, I was talking about this image that Tim sent me, and I've put it up on the door, right next to the door when I come into this room, and I'm sort of using it as the Jews touch something, I think it's called a mezuzah, as they enter their house. And I'm looking at this image every day as I come into my study, and it's called Monk's Moment. And I'm just sharing it with you now because it reminds us to be contemplative about our lives, and to breathe, as Josh said, and try to hold our psyches together. And if you'd like a copy of this image, just let me know. In fact, I think I can probably try to attach it to the chat here. So I'm going to go to Kushbu and ask Kushbu to, Kushbu wanted to offer a prayer at the end of our session today. And so I will see if I can add the monk's moment to the chat here. But if you would, Kushbu, could you proceed?
Yeah. So the words are Loka, L-O-K-A, Samastha, like the S-A-M-A-S-T-H-A, Sukhino, S-U-K-H-I-N-O, Bhavantu, B-H-A-N-T-U, Loka Samastha Sukhino Bhavantu. Okay, everybody, let's gather our energy, let's gather ourselves, let's
and tell us the meaning of these words, Kushbu.
Loka Samastha, all the people of the world, Sukhino Bhavantu, well-being and health, and Bhavantu means so it be, Amen, something like that. So Loka Samastha, all the people of the world, we are offering well-being and health, and we're saying Amen to that. So I'll say it 3 times, and I think my dogs are also joining in.
Okay, so next time, please put it on the chat so that we can see the words, but go ahead and proceed this time just by yourself. But
okay,
it's going to be hard for us to follow along because we can't see the words, but but go ahead. You lead us, and we'll be
okay.
Go ahead.
Loka Samastha Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samastha Sukhino. Loka Samastha Sukhino Bhavantu.
Thank you very much, Kushbu. That's very moving.
Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you very much, everybody. May God bless you.
Thank you so much for that. Please send us the words so we can I can put them on the screen the next time. and maybe we can follow along. But that was very beautiful. It made me emotional just listening to you sing it for us today. And
Skip, can I say something before we go?
Yeah, sure. Oh, I'm sorry. I missed a couple of people. I missed Melanie and I missed Miles. So.
Oh, well, I would like, first of all, to thank Joe of Honolulu for the Serenity Prayer I have a card and I went and pulled it out. I could speak some more about that. But I also just want to thank Jean, and I visited her WordPress site just now, and she's got a word called matrinosis, and it reminded me that just yesterday I was on a webinar with the lady who is the senior writer for this book called Drawdown, and this is a New York Times bestsellers list. So when it comes to the Serenity Prayer, we actually do have a lot that we can change and do. This lady presented a poem by Alice Walker, and I sent it as a link to Jean in the chat, but I know she's not too familiar with the system, so I just wanted to tell her that if she goes to chat, she'll see the link to Alice Walker's poem, which is titled, or it's an article, "I will not vote for evil. I want a different system." So thank you, Jean.
How do can I access it after this is over, or do I have to check it out right now, the chat?
You can go into the chat right now, and depending on, and you can copy the link and save it, copy and save it, and then paste it into your browser.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, got it. Wonderful. I did not
and
know.
I'll just add, she, Alice Walker makes a statement that for us men to get out of the way, to let the grandmothers lead. and I see that as for us men to get out of the way, to let the grandmother's authority lead, but we men we need to be facilitating that grandmother's authority. Thank you.
Thanks.
That was beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, so Melanie, did you want to say something today about how you're doing?
All I was gonna say is I really relate to Cynthia, that coming out of the dark night of the soul, I was in a depression, and I too now I had to adjust to the world kind of like joining me, and my depression has lifted. I think it's also from the removal of the pressure to like have to get out back into the world. I think that was causing a lot of my depression, and now I don't have that pressure. So I find that interesting. But otherwise, yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Thanks. Thank you everyone for sharing.
Well, that's good to hear. And let's see, I've put on the YouTube chat, but let me also put on the Zoom chat. This is the link for this Sunday session. I think that, yeah. Okay, so that's the link for the Sunday session. If you have not registered for the Sunday's session, you'll need to register again, because you have to register for the Tuesdays, the Thursdays, and the Sundays separately. But once you do register, then you can come on every time without registering after that. So I've just given you I've put all the links on before, but please join us on Sunday for our continuation of the series. So anything else that anyone wants to bring up before we go?
Okay, I have one thing that I found interesting. I've got some friends in Sweden, and they're not being forced into lockdown, which I found fascinating. I think in Europe they're treated quite well with regard to the way they work and their hours, and lots of other bonuses living in Sweden. So it's interesting, they're dealing with it in a whole different way. So it'll be interesting to see how that works.
Yeah, and I want to give special thanks to Jean Raffa for starting us off today. And
you're welcome. Thank you for asking me, Skip. I enjoyed it very much. This is very touching and very lovely.
Thank you.
I want to vote for grandmothers getting finally I happen to have 4 grandchildren, and I think it's about time someone listened to me. And also, I want to remind people, I'm almost a total extrovert. You probably figured that out. And I've been going in. We started in January with a book study with going within, but also we have to find things that bring us joy. We can't just wallow in this. I had it in February. I've had an epidemiologist and my physician think that we've already had it here, and so that was a wake up call. We've been prepared and not scared, and in our own bubble here for 5 weeks already, and it's we're fine. But we've been preparing. We've got enough food. We're eating organic greens that they're bringing to the house. It looks like a drug deal over here with the money on the porch and the stuff being dropped. But we can't just be sad. We have to find the place every day where we have some joy.
Right.
And that's why I painted the fire hydrant. I just needed something else.
So Terry has been giving me joy every day. Terry is a person who in 1962, in May of 1962, came up to me in the hallway of our high school in Japan and said, there's this girl who wants to meet you, and she wants to meet you at the teen club today. And I said, well, I can't really do that today because I have to take a train. And she said, no, it has to be today because she's leaving Japan tomorrow. But she really wants to meet you. So I said, well, okay. So I go over and I meet this girl and had a Coke with her for like an hour. And that girl, then I never heard from for 43 years. And finally, we got our high school class together, which was something of an effort because we had been all Navy juniors. So we went to the Winds after we graduated. And most of us didn't see one another for 30 years. But in this case, I never saw Melinda for 43 years. And we had started to communicate in 1994 because we had a high school reunion. And so suddenly about 43 years after we graduated, that's the number I remember, I get this email from this woman. I said, there was this incident back years ago. I met this woman at the teen club for one time for an hour. And she says, oh yes, I'm that woman. and so now, and that woman whose name is Melinda lives in California, and we're constantly text messaging back and forth among us all day long. Terry and Melinda and I, we've kept one another going for probably a decade now, and we rarely see each other. Terry and Melinda came to Annapolis last May with their, well, at least Terry brought Mark, who you saw briefly there, who you see in the lower corner of your screen, of her video right now. But anyway, thank you, Mark, for helping with the technology, and thank you, Terry, for being here. And I'll just thank you all for being here today.
Thank you, everyone.
I hope we see you all on Sunday.
And joy is the best medicine, always.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Marianne. Yep, try to keep your joy going and do some art. That's the secret. So.
It's easier when we're together. It's easier when we share.
Yes, it is. So.
Joy springs forward naturally when we share. I love it. Thank you so much.
So
We're having flowers delivered today to our house.
There you go. That helps.
Yeah, I mean, I love them, and we've used up everything in the yard. So, yeah, we're having flowers and groceries delivered.
Right, and thank you to Kushbu for your prayer. And I I have the written version of it here on the chat, so I'll make a placard of it for next time. So thank you all for joining us today.
Aloha.
Bye-bye.
Aloha. Bye-bye.